Imagine spending years designing an engine, millions poured into tech, teams locked into plans, and now the FIA might just throw it all in the bin. Yep, the 2026 power unit regulations, the so-called future of F1, could be dead before they even start. Tombazis just lit the fuse, and now it's chaos in the paddock. Could this be F1's biggest U-turn in years? Let's find out how politics, power struggles, and missed opportunities have thrown the sport's future into question. Now, if you rewind to when Jean Todt was running the FIA show, the gears were grinding to bring in fresh engine manufacturers. The idea: replace the trusty V6 turbo hybrids within 6 years. But instead of a slick pit stop, it turned into a long, drawn-out safety car period. Everyone had a different idea of what the future of F1 power should sound like, literally. So they kept tweaking, discussing, and dragging out the decision-making process, trying to get everyone from Ferrari to the new kids on the block to agree on one formula. One of the headline acts in this engine saga, Porsche. From 2017, they were right there in the FIA's working group meetings, pitching ideas with other hopefuls. The plan originally had new power units roaring into play by 2021, but then came COVID, halting development like a red flag at Eau Rouge. That delay pushed everything back a year, and the dream of a fresh batch of engine suppliers started looking more like a mirage than a miracle. With the clock ticking and new partners playing hard to get, F1 threw a temporary blanket over engine development. A freeze was slapped on the current power units from 2022 to 2025, hoping that time would bring clarity for the 2026 overhaul. But getting everyone on the same lap wasn't easy. Red Bull and Ferrari threw their helmets into the ring, suggesting a return to the good old V8 days. Simpler, cheaper, but this time dressed up in biofuel to tick the green box. Meanwhile, Honda performed a classic F1 maneuver, exit stage left, only to jump back in after that 2021 championship high with Red Bull. Porsche? They bowed out of the engine conversation when Red Bull wouldn't hand over the keys, or at least half of them. The German giant wanted a 50% stake in the team at Milton Keynes, and Red Bull weren't having any of it, so Porsche left the pit lane without ever making it to the start grid. Audi ended up being the lone brave soul willing to wade into F1's murky waters as a new engine manufacturer. They kicked off the painful, drawn-out process of buying up Sauber, a team with history, grit, and just enough Swiss neutrality to become the foundation for what will eventually become the Audi F1 team. Meanwhile, Red Bull took matters into their own hands. After being left hanging first by Renault and then by Honda during the turbo hybrid era, they said, fine, we'll build it ourselves, and launched their own powertrain division. The trust issues were real, and honestly, who could blame them? So after nearly a decade of engine musical chairs, where are we? What have 9 long years of boardroom battles, regulatory tug-of-wars, and political posturing brought us? The sad reality: nothing. Renault, once the lifeblood of F1 power innovation, is shutting down its historic plant in France as part of a cost-cutting measure. And just like that, we're right back where we started. For all the talk, the number of manufacturers supplying engines for 2026 hasn't budged an inch. Zero progress. Like doing a full race distance and ending up exactly where you qualified. Unlike most motorsport series around the globe, Formula One and World Endurance Championship have long prided themselves on allowing multiple manufacturers to duke it out with different engines. It's part of what makes the show unpredictable and the engineering battle so fierce. But not everyone plays this game. Over in the States, IndyCar keeps things tidy with a limited engine supplier pool. Fewer chefs, simpler recipes. Some series even go full single spec to avoid the drama entirely. Back in the golden days of F1, it wasn't like this. Engine power wasn't hoarded by a handful of corporate giants. Cosworth's legendary DFV engine was a budget-friendly weapon handed out to multiple teams like candy on Halloween. It dominated for years, giving privateers a real shot. But when the complex and costly V6 hybrids took over in 2014, Cosworth packed up and left the party. And with them went the era of accessible, competitive engines. After nearly 10 years of engine debates that felt more like slow-motion pit stops than progress, Formula One might finally be switching gears. The big twist? It seems even the sport's top brass now admit that the direction they took might have been the wrong one. Last June, Stefano Domenicali subtly dropped the first hints of regret. Then came the FIA's very late confirmation of the 2026 power unit specs, and the F1 boss didn't mince his words. Politics, he admitted, played a massive role in sticking with hybrids. And if they had to make that call today, chances are they'd go down a completely different road. The irony is hard to miss. F1 chased new manufacturers for years, shaping rules and compromising visions to lure them in, and ended up mostly empty-handed. Red Bull went rogue. Honda danced a chaotic 2 two-step. Porsche turned around at the gate. And now Audi's the only new name confirmed for 2026. All this effort, and the scoreboard hasn't moved much. Even Ferrari, yes, the team that practically is F1, seems tired of the hybrid game. The Scuderia isn't usually the first to call for sweeping change, but even they're questioning the time and billions funneled into these complicated power units. It's a clear sign that the sport's long-standing deference to manufacturer interests might finally be fading. Maybe, just maybe, F1 is done playing to the gallery. The hybrid era was meant to be the future, clean, cutting-edge, eco-friendly, but instead it's been a political maze with too many chefs in the kitchen. Now, as the 2026 era approaches, the sport seems ready to simplify, to strip things back, and to stop letting manufacturer politics dictate the race strategy. And honestly, it might be the boldest overtaking move they've made in years. This weekend, Bahrain isn't just hosting on-track action. It's about to stage one of the most critical off-track meetings in recent F1 memory. The FIA, Formula One leadership, and the manufacturers signed on for 2026 are sitting down for what's being called an extraordinary meeting. And it's no exaggeration. The fact that engine regulations, which were supposedly finalized, are back on the table speaks volumes. It's not just unusual, it's a flashing red light that all is not well under the hood for 2026. Whispers in the paddock suggest this meeting could be the moment where F1 hits the reset button on its power unit future. The big idea, scaling back the electrical components dramatically. We're not talking tweaks here, we're talking about ditching a large chunk of the hybrid setup that's dominated since 2014. Suddenly, the roar of V10S and V8S is back in fashion. Whether turbocharged or naturally aspirated, these old-school engines are being floated as serious alternatives. And while it sounds like nostalgia at first glance, there's a strategic pulse behind it. Why the shift? Because for years now, engine manufacturers have been calling the shots, sometimes to the point where they've effectively held the sport hostage. Designing complex hybrids that cost a fortune to develop and run has turned F1 into a closed club. If you're not a global automotive giant, forget about building or even affording a competitive engine, but a return to simpler, more affordable power units, the kind Cosworth once built and supplied like they were handing out candy on Halloween, could change the entire game. It would cut costs by millions for customer teams and blow open the doors for smaller independent outfits who've been locked out by budget and tech walls. Suddenly, F1 becomes more accessible, more competitive, and, dare we say it, a little more fun again. In short, this Bahrain meeting could determine whether F1 sticks with the ultra-expensive hybrid future or dares to go back to basics. It's the kind of crossroads that could shape the next decade, not just in terms of power units, but in who gets to compete, how they compete, and whether F1 remains a playground for giants or reopens to daring independents who just want to race. After almost a decade of talking, we still don't have a solid engine plan for 2026. Do you think politics has ruined F1's ability to make bold decisions? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, goodbye for now.